What's up everybody, welcome back to the Tier 1 Concealed YouTube channel. My name is Miles and today we're doing a Monday gun day on the Walther PDP Steel Frame match. This gun probably looks pretty familiar to a lot of you. It is aesthetically, it's basically the Walther PDP that a lot of you know and love, except it's very heavy because it's got a steel frame, which is great for competition. My understanding is that that's kind of how this gun is geared, is more towards the competition guy, because a lot of concealed carry guys are trying to shave weight. This does the opposite. More weight makes it shoot flatter, so competition guys love weight. This is a 5-inch gun, and it does already come with a mag well, does already come optic ready. Those aren't aftermarket things. So right off the bat, you get things that a lot of people, competition or not, would immediately spend money on adding. Out of the box, you get 3 mags, an 18 rounder and 2 20 rounders. It doesn't come with a bunch of different optic plates out of the box, so keep that in mind. That's probably something you're gonna have to buy the right plate for after you buy the gun. I think that's all we have to say about a quick overview of this gun before we head to the range. So we're just gonna head to the range, shoot it a little, and come back and give it a score. All right, we're at the range. We've got our clean target up there. I have the Walther in an Apex holster. We're gonna run the same drills we always do. We'll do bill drill, 3 reload 3, 3 reload 3, and then accuracy at 10 yards, no time limit. And like usual, we're not trying to burn it down. We're more just feeling the gun out, seeing how it feels to shoot and manipulate. So there's not gonna be screaming times or anything, but we're doing them to make sure we run through some typical stuff you would do with the gun. So we're at 7 yards here, by the way. All right, here we go. All right, that was all A zones, a 270. So slow by our normal standards. Sped it up a little. That was a 266. It's all clean, maybe. There might be one line breaker. That one's pretty dang close. You guys can call that clean or a line breaker if you want. Now we're gonna go back to 7 and run our 3 reload 3. All right, that was clean, a 471. All right, the last 3 shots, I was far left. That was a 473. I was on the left side of the target. That was just, I had a bad grip after the reload. So I threw these 3. All 3 of those were my last shot. So the group was fine. Just left and low of where I wanted to be, but that was a me thing. I could see that in my dot as I was doing it. I just didn't correct it. So we'll put up the B8 target. We'll go for accuracy at 10 yards, no time limit. All right, we're back at 10 yards. I've got 10 rounds in this mag. There is no time limit on this, and we're going for the X and the 10 ring to see how accurate this gun can be. This is an 8 MOA dot, just for reference, so it's huge. Actually, I'm gonna turn the brightness down on this, see if that helps. Oh. All right, let's go take a look at that. There is one in particular that I yanked low. But other than that, this is actually, so that's the one I felt go low in the 9 ring. This is a really good group. This gun is very accurate, I would say, based on this. So I'm actually really happy with that. I will say first impressions right now, before we go back to the armory, is it does feel a little snappier, especially for being a steel frame. I kind of expected it to be less snappy, which would allow me to have quicker follow-up shots, but it groups really well. So we'll head back to the armory, score this thing out, and see where it ends up. All right, we're back from the range. It's definitely a different day, and we're just gonna dive right in to breaking down the score on this gun. The first category is cost. This particular gun has an MSRP of $2,049. That is what it is on the Walther website, so you will be able to find it for cheaper at other retailers because MSRP is never what you actually pay for the gun. And for me, I gave that a score of 6.5 because even considering taking a few $100 off, $1,800 is a lot for a striker fired gun. I tried to give it a little benefit of the doubt in the fact that if you're buying this gun, you're probably buying it for competition use. So there is some added value for the audience, the target audience of this gun. But even that considered with the target audience, it is still fairly expensive for a gun that doesn't jump into the 2011 game, basically. For ergonomics, I gave this a 7. Keep in mind that all these scores are very based on me, so what you think might be different. But for me, I like the ergonomics of this. There's just a couple little things that I don't love. I have a love-hate relationship with this takedown lever right here because it does give you a good thumb shelf, but it is sharp enough that if you were shooting a whole match or a full day at the range with this, it would probably tear up your thumb pretty good. I didn't shoot it enough to actually get to that point, so as of right now, I like it as a thumb ledge, but if someone was shooting this a lot more, I could see how that might get uncomfortable. I love a big magwell, and it comes with it. You really can just drive a mag home in this magwell and not have to worry a lot about your reloads. So those are the two main things that I noticed ergonomic wise about this gun when I was scoring it. The next category is trigger. I gave this a score of 6.8, which I didn't want to give it because I have a Walther PDP and I've shot other Walthers, and this particular gun, this particular trigger is actually worse than other ones I've shot and I've felt. So I'm hoping this is an anomaly because typically I would say Walthers have one of the better out-of-the-box triggers. This one in particular seems to have very smooth take-up until there, and then it's got a very chunky take-up the rest of the way. I don't know if you can see the chunkiness, but it's got a lot of, Donovan Moore calls them false walls. It's got a handful of those. I really want to write that off as like the outlier as far as how the triggers go, because every other PDP I've ever felt has had a really nice trigger. Bore axis, I gave it a 7.5. Not the highest, not the lowest. I will say, even for being a heavy gun, this did feel noticeably snappier than some other striker fired guns like factory Glocks and stuff, which are kind of the standard. I feel like we compare everything back to a Glock or maybe an M&P, but it was snappier than I anticipated it being. Maybe that could be fixed with a different weight spring, but that was something that was surprising. And as of right now, I'm contributing it to a slightly higher bore axis because of the beaver tail comes down quite a bit lower. So as far as where my hand gets when I grip high up in the beaver tail, that is lower, further away from the bore than where my hand is on something like a Glock or an M&P. For sights, I gave it an 8. I do like, and this is part of seeing guns that are geared towards competition shooters a lot of the time, the rear sight does have adjustable windage, which I like. I do wish they were a little taller, purely based on this Defender XL. This is has a tall base. Maybe if it was something smaller like an RMR, you would be able to co-witness, but on this particular setup, you can't co-witness. And then it is just black sights with dots. There's no tritium, there's no fiber optic. So if you're looking for something like that, you might end up upgrading. I do love that it comes optic ready though. I just wish it came with the plates in the box for all your optics. For aftermarket support, I gave this gun an 8.8. There is a surprising amount of support for this gun, and I do believe it's probably because of the competition community. You can buy magwells, you can buy guide rods, you can buy different spring sets, you can buy triggers. There's pretty much all the same stuff you can get for any other popular like Glock, Smith & Wesson. You can buy the parts from someone. There's just probably fewer brands you can buy them from. For round capacity, I gave this one a 9. That's because 18 rounds in a mag is higher than average. I think that most full-size guns that I have seen cap at 17 rounds. So having an extra round in the mag is cool, and it coming from the factory with 2 extra 20-round mags is really cool. For serviceability, I gave it an 8.5. I think it's pretty on par with most other striker-fired guns. Even if it's a new platform, you'll be able to watch a YouTube video and in 10 minutes pretty much know how to take the whole thing apart and put it back together. So I think that's pretty average for the striker-fired guns. Probably above average for something like a 19 or 2011 that has a little more going on. Value, this is the category that I'm sorry for, but I gave it a 6. This is very based on me because I don't competition shoot. If I'm spending that much money on a gun, it's probably going to be ported or a 2011 or something a little more wild or unique. This gun is really cool and it does shoot nice, but value-wise, for me personally, I think there's lower value for me than there would be for someone who shoots competitions. It might have an incredibly high value for someone that shoots competitions, especially if you're doing carry optics or something like that. This would be a great gun for that. So take that one with a grain of salt. The last category is cool factor. I gave this a 7.5 because I do think this is a pretty cool gun. I really like that they're doing a steel frame. You see a lot of companies put out metal frames, and a big chunk of the community that wants a metal frame wants it because they're heavy. So I think it's cool that Walther did that, and they didn't have to wait several years of customer backlash for a light metal frame to get there. They knew what their audience wanted, and so they made it. I do think that's pretty cool. That brings the total score to 75.6, putting it in 9th place overall, which I think is a pretty good position for this. It's a really cool gun. It just, for me, definitely has a little smaller demographic of people that are looking for it. But for that demographic, it's probably exactly what they're looking for. So that's kind of why my scores may seem a little all over the place. And that wraps up this video. If there's any other guns you want to see us do a Monday Gun Day on, drop those in the comments. Don't forget to like, share, and subscribe. Don't forget to buy a holster. And most importantly, see you on the next video.